Hey, this is Rob Anspach, and welcome back to another edition of eHeroes. Today's episode is episode 262 for all those keeping count. And today we're going to learn taxes from a copywriter. No, not really. But I did bring on a copywriter, and she goes by the Oddball copywriter. Her name is Allison Roden, and we're going to talk about copywriting. And I know that some of you, we've talked about copywriting before on the show, and many of you know that I helped Tony Polici with his book, The Wise Guy's Copywriting Handbook. But we're going to dive into a deeper perspective and what makes someone become a copywriter. So thank you, Allison, for being here. And I think this is going to be eye-opening.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
And, we started off saying that you do taxes, but you're a copywriter. Let's share that story. And I know that to some people they're curious, to some other people they're probably going, yeah, right, it's just a headline. But there's always curiosity somewhere.
That's right. So I was just telling Rob before we got started recording here, I've been mentoring a girl for 6 years, started when she's in third grade. And so I guess this is my 7th year. She's a sophomore in high school. And I go see her once a week all through the school year. So we have known each other very well. And all along, she's known I have my own business. I was working with her when I started it. And I've told her, I don't know, at least 15 times what I do, because every once in a while she'll get curious and ask. Usually she doesn't care. But yesterday I went to see her and I had on my copywriter t-shirt. And she said, "Oh, what is it that you do for a business? Are you a copywriter? What is that?" And I said, "Oh, I write marketing stuff and whatever." And she said, "Oh, I thought you did like people's taxes or something." Ugh.
And it's funny because I've been in the copywriting field for 25 years. That's how long I've known Tony Polici. And to this day, there's still people out there that think copywriters are those people that make copyrights
Your
on
patenting inventions and
patents and
stuff.
trademarks.
Yeah.
And so it's like, oh yeah, you do that all day long. Oh, that's kind of boring. And then when you tell them about, copywriting is taking words and phrases and putting them in the marketing pieces and creating brilliant headlines, and then they're thinking, oh, that's even more boring.
Oh, that sounds, and I had never heard of copywriting the first like 2 years I was in business, and I didn't know what it was. And now that I have become one, I was watching Howard the Duck a few weeks ago, and he was a copywriter. Did you know that?
I vaguely remember the show. I mean,
I'm
it's
just like, what?
that's an old movie.
Mm-hmm. And I kind of have a guilty pleasure of watching The Girls Next Door, which was the reality show with Hugh Hefner and his girlfriends. And now 2 of the girlfriends are doing a podcast and rewatching the show. So I'm like rewatching along with them. And he started as a copywriter, Hugh Hefner.
So what made you become a copywriter? Because people don't just wake up one day and say, I want to be a copywriter.
I can tell you it was not Hugh Hefner or Howard the Duck. I originally started as a budgeting and money coach because in my corporate life, before being an entrepreneur, I worked for an online brokerage company, and I was all, a licensed broker and all this and that. And I always worked in the risk management department. So I saw people losing their entire life savings plus a couple $100,000, and I would talk to some of these people on the phone trying to help them figure out how they were going to pay it back or what their game plan was. And it was the stories that they would tell me about how they got here. I would just think, oh my gosh, this was just one basic mistake they made that put them in this horrible spot. So when I left there, I thought, I want to start a business and teach people how to avoid making these simple mistakes in their budgets or with their money. This is what I want to do. It's my calling. Well, okay. So I start this business, find out almost immediately that the people that need the help are not willing to accept the help. And it became pretty frustrating to me. And then the people that would accept help, they would show me their finances, and I would think, how can I take any of their money? They don't have any to give me. They're paying out tens of thousands of dollars to all these crazy things. Ugh. So it was stressful for me. And I turned my business in a different direction and said, okay, I worked in corporate. I had a baby. I hated leaving him at daycare. I wanted to be at home, but there was a gap in the budget. So I'm going to figure out how to have like flexible side hustles that moms can do and stay home with their kids, because that's what I wanted to do. So that I'm like, and I'm going to call myself a money coach now. No longer budget. Screw budget. Budgets are dumb. Okay. So I start like driving for Lyft and Uber and dog walking and house sitting. And I had some job where I took pictures of wrecked cars for an insurance company and like uploaded them onto an app. All these things that moms could do on their own schedule or take their kids with or whatever. And in the midst of all of this, I got targeted, I think, by an ad on Facebook. And it was like, learn how to get clients through posting on Facebook. And I thought, oh, okay, that sounds like something that I would like. So I signed up for that, and it was a copywriting course with Richard Fletcher. He's in the UK. So this was also my first foray into like international people, outside of the US, big time. So I took this course. Well, it was a free challenge. And then of course he upsold at the end into a course, and I signed up for it. And it was so good. It was like a year internship where you could submit posts and he would critique them, and we'll say critique. He would rip them to shreds and tell you how to do it better. And he really helped me over that year. And I thought, well, this is cool. I should try to do this as a side hustle and see what kind of money I can make doing it. And then maybe I could get an affiliate deal with Richard and send him people that he could teach to do copywriting. I didn't have any desire to be the one teaching. And he already had this course and whatever. So I started doing that, and then I started finding all these other copywriters that I was following, and like, wow, these people are so all over the world, living in all these crazy places, taking all these vacations, moving thousands of miles away from home, and all this and that. And in the meantime, I'm like having to turn away jobs because it's taken away from my time to try to get budget clients. And during this period, I was working with Manny Wolf, who introduced us. And I was talking to him on the phone, and I'm like, oh, I got this waterproof speaker, and I listen to copywriting podcasts when I'm taking a shower every day while I'm getting ready, so I can always be learning. And he said, you are always talking about copywriting, like nonstop. Why don't you just become a copywriter and not have this budgeting business anymore? And it was like, I don't know, like a gong moment. Oh yeah, why don't I? Because I had spent all this time building up this budgeting business and convinced myself that this was the thing, but I really actually didn't like it. I didn't like coaching people with that. It was depressing. Even when they did want help, it made me feel anxious seeing whatever position they were in. And so I just made the switch.
Yeah, I mean,
how's that?
When I had my first business, it was a carpet cleaning business back in 1995. my slogan was, "We clean your carpet, not your wallet." And I wanted people to think that I was affordable. Problem was, all I attracted was people that didn't have any money.
Yeah.
And same with you. You have this budgeting company that teaches people how to probably save money, and you quickly realize that they didn't have any money. You know,
Yeah.
you're teaching them how to maximize money, but they didn't have any, so you couldn't make any money. So
Right.
you
Yeah.
quickly realize that you either had to charge a lot of money or shift gears into something that could enable you to make money. And I mean, with my business back then, I quickly realized that I was attracting the wrong clients. I raised my prices. I mean, I raised them a lot, and I started attracting the clients that really could afford me. And
Hmm.
um, with you now, I mean, if you go to your Facebook page, you have the big banner that's splattered over it. It says the Oddball Copywriter. So what makes you different?
Well, I started to touch on this a little bit when I was talking about all the other copywriters that I was following that were moving to different countries and vacationing all over the place. And um, so I was working with Richard on a different project, and we were going to rebrand my Instagram account and do some different things with that. And he said, we need to come up with something catchy that you're called, and other than just like Allison. And so I said, I don't know, all these other people do these things. I feel like I don't even fit in this world because I live in the middle of Nebraska and I'm married and I have a young kid and I'm going to sporting events and I don't drive a minivan, but I might as well. It's a Ford Flex. And I said, everybody else is such an oddball. And he said, well, if it's everybody else that's an oddball, then actually you are the oddball. And he said, that's it. Let's call you the oddball copywriter. And what's odd about you is you're like this Midwest mom doing copywriting. So I said, okay. And it was at first it felt kind of weird to me to have that. And then I started to grow into it. And the things that I ended up liking to do, like I love writing white papers. Um, I love working with clients that are local to me and doing things like setting them up to be in a parade and having in-person events and doing things off of social media. That is also oddball
Mm,
because you don't see that very often. So I got the name and I almost kind of grew into it
mhm.
and embraced it.
Yeah, sometimes it's hard to embrace not only the new gig, the side gig, as your main gig, but it's hard to embrace a name that someone else gave you because you're trying to sense your way through this whole process. And
Hmm.
so so how has using Oddball Copywriter, has it made you more money? Has it got you better clients?
I don't know. I don't know if it had any effect or not. I don't know how I would study that. I guess I could poll my past clients.
I mean, I'm sure you get a lot of referrals.
Hmm.
So I mean, they got to see something in you that they want to refer you to someone else. And so what are the typical types of copy that you like to write? You like long form? Do you like short form?
I really like writing. This is maybe a little unpopular for a copywriter, but I like to write social media,
Mm,
which I did have way back in the day. One very, very fancy copywriter told me that is not copywriting, that is content creation. Copywriters don't do that. Well, I've since learned more and I call bullshit on that. Um, I find that it is absolutely necessary for a copywriter to also write content so that it all flows together.
mhm.
But that just happens to be my favorite kind because I don't have to be as formal,
Right.
I guess, and I can have more fun with it.
Yeah. I mean, it's when I started learning marketing back in 1998. Tony was one of my mentors, and I learned copywriting very quickly. But since social media came out, a lot of what I write now is social media posts. I write blog articles. I write books. I
Mm-hmm.
don't do a lot of the copywriting, projects like I used to. I mean, the last big copywriting letter that I wrote was back in 2012. So we're going back 11 years, but I won an award for that.
Yeah.
And that award, you know, allowed me or positioned me into bigger and better things. People say, "Oh, wow, you got that award. That's great. I want to hire you and do this and do that." And so it was a catalyst to allow me to do bigger and better things. But I'm also one of those types of people. If I know someone can do something better than me, I'm going to hire them to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't always have the time with all the other projects that I'm doing.
Yeah.
So for me, it's I like to understand the nuts and bolts and how things are created, but I don't always have time to do the creation. So I'd rather field it out to someone who that's all they do.
Yes. And along those lines, I'm working with Bob Yeager right now. I actually bought one of his companies, Selling Lab, recently, and we'll be kind of integrating that with Oddball Copywriter. But he talks a lot about, as a business owner, learning how to do something like writing white papers, so that then if you want one of your staff to do it, or you want to hire somebody to do it, you've learned the process, so you know how it should look, and you're better able to supervise it in the future when you can outsource that.
Yeah. Yeah. And for me, copywriting gave me that foundation to understand word mixes and bullet points and all these other things where it makes my writing in books or articles pop better or flow
Mm-hmm.
better. And I think that everybody out there that wants to know marketing better needs to understand how copywriting works.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just creating content. It's about getting that person to read the headline and the subheadline and everything else that's in that marketing piece. Because if you don't hook them in, then your marketing is no good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
And I actually have I write for a couple of local publications here too, kind of as a little journalist gig. And I find that copywriting skills carry right into that perfectly,
Yeah,
especially white paper writing.
right. And one of the things that I've learned, and it probably goes back to copywriting, is when I write books, everything in those books is a conversational tone because I want people to stay in the book. I want people to stay in that conversation and make it feel like they're having that conversation with the person in the book and not feel like it's above them or speaking at them or so that's how I write. And I think it all stems back from copywriting because I want that audience to be involved. I want that audience to understand what it is I'm talking about. Plus the fact as when they read the book and they feel like it's a conversation, when they do meet me or the co-author or whoever's in the book in real life, they'll say, "Wow, it was like I just talked to you. What you say to me live now is the same as how you spoke in the book."
Mm-hmm.
So they can feel that realness. If what I write doesn't jive with what's in the book and I meet you in real life and it doesn't sound like you, I'm going to say, "Well, dude, you didn't write that book."
Yeah.
And
Is
there's
that
going to
like
be a disconnect.
if any of your phone scammers meet you in real life, they would have the same experience?
Yeah, I mean the Rob versus the Scammers book. I think they use that book as a learning guide because I'll pick up the phone and they'll automatically know it's me. They'll ask me stupid questions, and I'm like, you guys are just testing me at this point. I
Um,
think so. It's and the thing is that, and we spoke about this off air, is that I've been in this marketing field for a long time. And so I can detect when my friends write pieces because I know how they write. And
Hmm.
when you're an effective copywriter, when you write something, it's like your digital fingerprint. I can tell it's you,
Hmm.
you know. Um, it's kind of like voice recognition. I can tell by how you write, your rhythm, and how you do things that you wrote this piece. And a lot of people can't do that. But for me, because I've been doing this for so long, I can tell who wrote what when. Um, and when people become better at copywriting, you know, you'll start to
Yep.
see, their patterns, their personality. It gets injected into their pieces. And but I think my goal, I think everything that I try to teach people is take on projects that you feel passionate about. Because I've seen so many copywriters and marketers tackle projects that either they don't know anything about, they're kind of opposed to that morally or ethically, but they take it on anyway.
Hmm.
And when you're not passionate, or when you're opposed to what you're trying to write or sell for, the pieces fall flat because
Yeah,
you don't have any passion in it, you don't have any energy in it, and so you have to believe in what you're selling.
I would agree. And I just recently told somebody that a large majority of the clients I have become clients of theirs too. And they acted all like, what? That's unusual. And I thought, it is, because I don't want to write for something that I think is garbage or a bad product. So if I'm doing all this research on something and I really believe in it and it could solve a problem that I have, obviously I'm going to buy it
Hmm.
or, use that service or whatever. To me, it seems natural.
Yeah, yeah.
And when I pitch, occasionally I'll do cold pitch emails to products that I use and say, hey, you know what? Do you need someone to do any writing for you? Here's what I think that I could do for you. And I've gotten a couple jobs that way.
Hmm.
And I only do it to things that I use. I'm not doing that to random emails for weird things that I get in my inbox.
Yeah. So, if you're doing a lot of stuff for locals in Nebraska, you do other stuff for other people around the world?
I do.
And
Yeah.
what's the furthest that a client has reached out?
I've not had a client outside of the US, I
Hmm.
don't think. I have a lot of connections and I've purchased from people outside of the US, but I've got Long Island, um, all the way to California and everywhere in between.
Nice. Yeah.
Those are the ones popping into my head from currently.
And you have people in your local area now consider you a celebrity because you have, clients all over the United States.
No, oddly, they just consider me some mom driving a Ford Flex.
Hmm. And I think that's what's nice about having a business in a small town. I mean, I live in the country in Pennsylvania, and people see me at home all the time,
Hmm.
and so they either think I'm retired or I'm a drug dealer. They never ask me if I'm a marketer. They never ask me if I write books. They just assume one or the other.
Or both. I mean, a retired drug dealer.
That's right. So
That's the
it's like,
best of both worlds right there.
yeah, because I mean, I had my cleaning business for 19 years, and I sold that in 2014, and at the time I was running the consulting business and that business at the same time for a good 8 or 9 years.
Hmm.
And the so when I've been running the consulting business now almost 10 years, uh without any other strings, no other businesses. And so people are like, what is it that you do, Rob? You're always home.
Just tell them you're doing people's taxes.
Yeah, I'm a copywriter, but I do taxes.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Oh, taxes. I know what those are. Whew, I feel better now. Moving along.
Excuse me. But yeah, it's I think a lot of people are still confused. And those that aren't in the marketing world have no idea really what copywriters do.
no, they
But,
don't.
copywriters are a pivotal role in the marketing world. And without copywriters, we wouldn't see a lot of the inspirational ads, the long form sales letters. So it's a skill that I think everybody should understand, but only a few should actually be doing it. And,
Hmm.
uh, yeah, it's. But you've taken the time to study. You've taken the time to you know seek out those that teach it, so that you can improve your craft. And,
Yeah. I
um,
I feel like it's something that you can never stop learning. You can always get better at it.
so I mean, and I'm not gonna share or ask you to share your pricing, but I do want you to kind of tell us, and we kind of mentioned this off air, because I'm a big believer in getting paid up front. I'm a big believer in not giving people terms. You know, I, I'm I've been telling this to my clients, my listeners, forever. Those 90-day terms that people expect you to give them, they will stretch them out. And it might take you 6 months to finally get paid. And then that
Yeah,
money is not worth what you could have gotten 6 months prior.
right.
Mm.
Yeah, I do all up front.
Mhm.
And I typically want a quick turnaround. I do have one retainer client, um, and he pays me every month, but otherwise on my one-off jobs, it's gonna be, I don't want those jobs lingering around forever, cluttering up my mind, and
Mhm.
I want to stay fresh and get them done. So pay me up front and I'm gonna pump it out in whatever time I said that I was going to, and then we're done here. On to the
Mhm.
next one. And if it happens to be the same client again, great,
Mhm.
which happens a lot,
Yeah.
because I do what I say I'm going to do. And as long as they do what they say they're going to do.
Yeah. It's I've started to even say, look, this is my minimum. And a lot of people get frustrated because I've raised my minimum just probably every 6 months for years.
Hmm.
And people come back to me and are like, well, that's not what you charged me 6 years ago. Yeah, but that was 6 years ago.
Right.
So these are my prices now. And even if they were a client and they stopped being a client, even if 30 days went by and they come back to me and say, Rob, we want another project. Okay, well, this is my price now. And they don't always understand, because I think, for me, it's once you stop being a client and you want to start over, then you're starting over at what everybody else is paying me.
Hmm.
So it's I know that there's a lot of people out there that still struggle with invoicing. They still struggle with collection, and getting paid upfront, or having the courage to ask for payment upfront, is one of the biggest things that you can do to eliminate 95% of your collection problems.
Well, I actually worked in the collection department at TD Ameritrade for 2 years, and I am quite experienced in collection techniques. And I was the treasurer for the Cub Scout pack for a couple of years.
Oh,
Where
there you go. That's it.
I joked there that there was the Cub Master's brother owed some dues or something, and he kept not being at the meetings. And I had texted him and said, "Hey, can you ask him to bring a check so I don't have to go over there with a baseball bat?" And there was like no reply for 2 days. And I said, "I was just kidding." Like, oh, I'm gonna get kicked out of the
Hey,
Cub Scout organization.
let's go back to that. Let's talk about that, because here's the thing. most companies, they'll have departments to do collection.
Mm-hmm.
And that department will waste countless hours collecting money that may never come.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you can get paid up front, you've already just eliminated your collection department.
Yep.
You've eliminated all the wasteful hours trying to collect money that you should have done up front.
So we had kind of a different approach here at Ameritrade, and I thought it was a really good approach. We won some awards internally in the company because we would actually get client compliments, which is, when you think about it, absolutely outrageous. But we were told to have a kinder, gentler approach to collections, because when it got to the point where it was going to be trouble, we sent it to an agency.
Mm-hmm.
But our thing was, it was mostly automated, but for the bigger amounts, we would call the people, and instead of saying, this was kind of my first foray into copywriting, instead of saying, oh, you owe us $85,000, when are you going to send a wire? Say, well, I saw that your account took a bad turn in the market yesterday, and your option that you owned went to shit, and now you owe all this money. Or, you were on margin and they couldn't buy you in fast enough. And I would just talk to the people, let them tell me their story, and ask, are you going to be able to pay this? What's your situation here? And usually you could tell pretty quickly if this was going to turn into a bankruptcy or not.
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't waste time on those people. We might check in every once in a while. And a lot of times right off the bat, we'd say, you know what, you owe us $85,000, and we'd go through their credit report and whatever. If you can send us $10,000, we'll write off the rest.
Mm-hmm.
And, you can never have an account here again and whatever, but if that's what you can do, we'll take something. And because if you end up sending it to a collection agency, they take a big portion of it anyway.
Yeah.
And we didn't want to spend a lot of time jacking around with these people. You can't get blood from a stone. And we had the highest collection rates that they'd had in year, maybe ever. I don't know how long back they kept records, but I mean, people wanted to work with us because when we called, we were friendly and let them tell their story. Mm-hmm. And thinking back, like, that whole process was totally rooted in copywriting, of appealing a little bit to their ego, like, tell me what happened, and just letting them ramble. Sometimes I'd be on the phone for 2 hours and cry and everything else. It was draining, but it worked.
Yeah. Yeah. So, a lot of these past jobs that you've had and have turned you into the copywriter that you are now, but you didn't know that then.
Mm-mm.
And I think that is the strength of most copywriters, is that they've taken the experiences that they've learned on prior jobs to make what they do more believable when it comes to writing for clients, because they've experienced it already. They know the pain. They can empathize. I can never say that word. Empathize with the client, and so their writing hooks you in better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've done, a fair amount of living. I've seen some young buck copywriters that are good, but it seems like usually the people who have, lived a life have had a lot of experiences, and they can relate to people in a lot of different markets.
Mm-hmm. So how can people get a hold of you? Where do they go?
Well, my Facebook profile is my favorite place to hang out, even though I hear that, Facebook is dead and whatever. It's not dead for me yet. And my name on there is Allison Riley Rodden. And I also have a Facebook group that I recently relaunched. This is its third iteration, and I just verified it's not dead. So people are doing stuff in there, and it is called the Profit Academy Pros. So it's a little bit of an experiment. I'm teaching marketing and money stuff. And I am partnered with a friend of mine here, Nicole Redenbaugh. She's an insurance broker. And between us, we have a wealth of just super interesting information. Just kidding. Super useful information that we will make interesting.
There you go.
So you can join that group. And then I'm over on Instagram and LinkedIn too. I hate TikTok, so I am not there.
I'm on TikTok not that often.
It's a time suck for me.
It's I only get on it because my client, one of my big clients, is on it, and she has about 80,000 followers for having a TikTok for only 10 months.
Wow. Yeah, I'm not silly enough to say TikTok doesn't work, but it is dangerous to my productivity. So therefore, I just said no.
I've learned to turn this off. I've learned to stay focused. I've learned to structure a lot of my social on scheduling platforms, and that has saved me about 20 hours a week.
Yeah,
so I work about 4 hours a day now, and I just get stuff done. I hyper focus, and people are like, "Oh, how do you get 4 or 5 books done a year?" I just do it.
Yeah.
This year we actually are doing 6 books, 7 books. Yeah, we typically do 4 a year, but this year it was we were just cranking them out. So
yeah, I'm still a work in progress because I fall apart when school is out. So the summer is like, I'm trying to work. My kid's old enough, I should be able to, but I still get interrupted like every 7.5 minutes, which is very difficult when you're trying to get in the zone and write.
Well, the thing is that I think every copywriter has ADD.
Yeah.
So you just have to learn to get stuff done in those 7.5 minutes, and you'll be fine.
Yep. It's a learning curve, and as soon as I figure it out, he'll be old enough that he will not want anything to do with me. So
any last words you want to impart to the audience, and then we'll say adios.
Just let your inner oddball come out, whether that means happily driving a Ford Flex or making Instagram reels about your son's football game. Do it.
And the oddball part becomes your brand. For me, sarcasm became my brand, my personality, and that's what drives people or repels people away from me.
Yeah.
And so embrace that oddballness of yourself, the eclectic nature of what you do, and you guys will be stronger for it. So until next time, we'll see you guys on the next episode. Thanks for listening, and go join Allison's group and learn copywriting. Adios.
Thanks for having me.